Oh.
Send me the question over Messenger, Ben.
No, I just sent it in the group chat.
I'm on my damn phone. I can't see shit.
Whatever. Welcome to the Practical Pistol Show. My name is Ben Steger. Here to answer your shooting questions. Joining me today from Austin, Texas, Tim, full Timmy Myers.
Howdy.
From Kansas City, Matt, you need a cooler name. Hoppy Hopkins.
Yeah.
Ooh. No, you don't like that. But. And from Oregon, Portland, the city of badass mustards. Gabe White.
King of all junk carry.
King of all junk. Yeah, you do have some pretty badass shooting credentials. All right, guys. Discussion topic today. I got an interesting email. A guy shot a match. He happened to be squatted with some GMs, namely Matt Hopkins, who he was impressed by. Now, the other guys, we're not going to name the other guys he squatted with, but he wasn't as impressed by them, even though they were GMs. And he says, it made me wonder if there were any differences in their routines for practicing accurate shooting. Like, does Hopkins shoot group 5 times a week? These other guys are shooting him twice a month. What's the difference if one actually exists? We shooters tend to talk a lot about not dropping points when we talk about shooting, but we don't really cover gaining points, which is the whole object of the game. If it does come up, it's like don't miss, or you can't miss fast enough to win, or you have to shoot A's, some other generality. Most people I know don't really shoot groups, and if so, then it's at 10 or 20 yards, which seems like some really pussy bullshit. And maybe there's more to it than shooting groups, so I thought it may be podcast worthy to talk about it because, you know, these GMs came and did battle with one another, and the most accurate guy won. So, Hopkins, I'm going to kick it to you, man. Why are you such a ninja?
Why am I such a ninja?
Well,
Dude, I practice at speed. I mean, so the only way to get better is to actually shoot better, right? And
okay.
If you want to
maybe
get
this
faster,
would fall under what the guy's saying is like, you can't miss fast enough to win. Like,
all right.
you think shoot better. We got to be real specific here.
Okay, so I practice at speed to get the accuracy up. You know, so I'm like trying to push the speed but not lose the accuracy, like in practice, and I do that at local matches also.
Give me a specific example, because I'm a little dense sometimes.
This is hard.
Okay, like a drill that you're shooting, a drill that you would use.
Oh, I don't know, man.
Dude, come
on, like
Jesus.
So, all right,
Christ.
so I can address the thing where he said, do you do group shooting like 5 times a week or whatever? I can tell him I do not do it that often, but I do know how to do it. So, like, does that answer the question?
Yes, that answers the question. You group shoot some number of times that is not 5 times a week. Thank you very much. Joining us late while we're in progress is a freshly showered Candace Giuliano. Thanks for showing up, Candace.
Hi, Candace.
All right, Gabe, you got to kick it over to you, buddy.
I'll try to think of a better answer.
You may not be a grandmaster by USPSA reckoning, but if I'm a face shooting Timmy, you're pretty much my hero. How are you such a ninja, sir?
I think it does come down to accuracy at speed, and I think you got to always, always, always practice to shoot straight shots at a faster and faster rate and just pull the trigger straight back on harder and harder targets and hit them. And I think, I don't know, but I bet it comes down to simply just that core ability, and I don't know how much it is going to come down to maybe applying that in some more challenging parts of the match, like, you know, maybe you decide you can take a shot on a move at a 20-yard target, or, you know, you're shooting at some 25-yard target with the sights in motion and you just don't stop the gun because you're that confident with it. But that's what I think it comes down to.
All right, so one thing I want to pick out that you're talking about, harder and harder targets. And
Yes.
So you'd say that during the course of your training, are you like keeping the time limit, similar and then making the targets harder? I mean, or do you change up the time limits at distance, or what are we talking about here?
I think I would say it's more just constantly push the targets to be harder. And in the last couple of years, my training has been probably a little bit more haphazard, and I've done not as good of a job of tracking times and results and stuff. So I may not have as great a sense of exactly where I'm at on that kind of stuff. But I think that like the Frank Garcia dot drill is great. 25-yard bill drills are great. Do stuff like draw and shoot stuff on the move at 15 or 20 yards and partial targets. I mean, just push the difficulty just through the roof
Right.
in practice.
But
And then when you come back to Earth, it's like normal person land.
all right, but working without a time limit, doing group shooting, is that something that you think is really important for your development? Like if we're talking about people that are high level, right? You're already high level. Is the group shooting important for your development?
I guess I don't really know the answer to that question because I've never neglected group shooting long enough to feel like I have the answer of what happens if I don't do group shooting. There was definitely a time a few years ago when I did a lot more of it than I do now, and I would not want to abandon it completely, but I don't think it's the core of it. I think pushing accuracy at under time pressure is really where it's at.
All right,
And under harder and harder circumstances.
All right, but before we kick it back to Matt, I've got to compliment you on your outfit. You look like a younger, slightly less facially haired Unabomber. I dig it.
I have many fun hats and glasses that I use for this podcast and USPSA. In fact, today, earlier in the day, I was at Target, and there was a guy there that looked like they let him out of the group home and took him on the bus to Target, and he had a tiger shirt on. Like, it had a big, giant, like, whole shirt was this big photorealistic tiger face. And I thought that would probably be a great shirt to wear at USPSA, so I was looking at those on Amazon earlier. It was kind of like those wolf shirts that are so lame, except it was a tiger, which is better.
Supposedly Walmart has a cat picture that is like tie-dyed.
Maybe I'm going to the wrong store then.
Yeah. All right. So to get back on the topic.
Yeah, let's get back on the topic, Hopkins.
To high-level skill, absolutely not. Because what stage in the match are you actually under no time limit? You're always under a certain time limit, even though it's self-imposed. Honestly, like you could take all the time you want, but why would you want to?
Not if you want to win.
Hurt your score, right? So you have to keep pushing down that time every time you shoot, no matter how hard the target is. But I have like abandoned any build drill under 15 at this point. I'm playing 20 to 25. Last time I did them, it was at 25, and it ate my lunch up.
I have to apologize. Candace thinks it's cool to like fuck around with her microphone. Jesus. All right. So this is good. Hopkins, would you say, like, comparing your accuracy to other GMs, how would you say it stacks up?
I'd say it's probably a little better than most, but it's not under any more. I'm not any slower, I guess, either. I think you have to figure out how to shoot fast in the time limit, right? And shoot accurately in the time limit, I guess.
Okay, and there's one other thing I think that we probably didn't talk about a whole shitload. I mean, when we're talking about shooting accurately and in a USPSA context, I think there's a lot of shots you fire that aren't A's, but the fact that they're not A's doesn't have a whole lot to do with them being like shitty trigger control or sight discipline. It's going to end up being something you picked up as a result of a transition or missing your grip on a reload or missing your grip when you draw or something like that. You think you could speak to that a little bit, Matt?
Yeah, kind of. So here's what I'm going to take off of that. Also, I'm going to add something, is if you're going to be aiming off a target. Like, say you have a a no shoot under a target and you have like an inch of the A zone available, you're not going to be aiming for that inch of the A zone, right? You're going to be aiming for the head box on it, just because the risk factor of the shots into the lower A is way more with that no shoot there than the upper A, right? So you're going to have some like accuracy. You're going to lose some accuracy there, right? Just because of where you're aiming, because it's a lot smaller target.
Yeah. So like the sort of the changing types of targets ends up sort of changing up what you've got to be doing.
Right.
Yes. Tim Myers.
Yes.
More than 50% of the shots you fire in a match are A's, I would say, right?
I tried, man. I don't know about that, but I tried. That's the goal, right?
Do you feel like when you listen to Hopkins talk about accuracy training, how do you feel about your own like sort of training, or how much effort you put into shooting accurately?
Well, I just started training again recently, but I would say that's been a focus of mine as well. I mean, it's paid off, but yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of with him that I don't do like no time limit shooting. I don't know. I don't see the point of it, but that's me. I mean, we're not shooting matches under no kind of time constraints, so I try to put something on there, or at least a timer on there, and like he said, a self-imposed, even if it's not real.
All right, cool. Well, that's got to be the big takeaway from the question emailed in, where the guy's talking about apparently the only thing we could think of to shoot more accurately is to shoot with no time limit, and I don't really think that's how we do it. That's just not really how it plays out. Candace.
Yeah? What?
Do you have anything you could add to the discussion, or?
No, my computer isn't working right.
All right, cool. Good talk. All right.
If I can add anything, I'd say like group shooting is not going to make you better at USPSA stage shooting, right? That's what it boils down to. And
I don't think there's a lot of value there. I think it's something that you've got to be proficient at, but kind of if you're proficient at it, and like Gabe does, if you maintain your proficiency, I mean that's probably all the further it's going to take you. Then you got to start working with time limits. That's really important. All right, cool. Ben, there was a discussion on a shooting forum. See if you can guess which forum this was, because the guy didn't identify it. There was a discussion on a shooting forum about dry firing striker-fired guns that don't reset. The poster said, "There's no point dry firing unless there's a trigger break." My opinion was trigger break, just a tiny portion of dry fire. I was told that I don't know dick about real-world shooting, and he knows because he's had the good fortune to shoot for a couple of years with Team USA shooting coaches, and they all teach you dry firing with a trigger break. What's your opinion? Hopkins, what's your opinion on that? What is he? Does this guy know dick about real-world shooting, or what?
It doesn't sound like it really applies to USPSA, because the break is a very small part of that, right? In the trigger press.
Yes.
I don't think it, and I guarantee it's Eno's phone question because it's retarded.
Oh, wait, but he's saying you don't know about real-world shooting. There's many other forums we could point to where it's more real-world shooting's more a focus of what they're trying to do.
Okay.
I think this is a pretty interesting question, and I think this is one where I personally differ somewhat from what I see as the dominant custom for dry firing in USPSA.
Oh, yay, do tell.
Well, it's not that I think that custom, that being kind of forsake trying to have a very, very realistic representation of the trigger pull itself. That's why you're not stopping to work the slide, work the hammer, reset the trigger, or any of that kind of stuff. And what that lets you do is it lets you emphasize continuity of grip and vision. And that's beneficial. That is good. And that's where a lot of USPSA stuff is at. And I think that there's enough of USPSA that is practice on targets that are not all 20-plus yard partial targets where you need a very fine degree of trigger control. And when you become more skilled, you can just slam that trigger straight back and hit A's on an unobstructed A zone at 20 yards, at 15 yards. So maybe you don't need to emphasize that degree of trigger control as much. And also, I wonder if there's a difference in maybe the guns that you see in USPSA versus guns that maybe you see outside of USPSA maybe some of the time have a more challenging trigger. One of the things that I personally do for dry fire and have done for a long time is I actually do make a hole drill out of whereas maybe in a customary USPSA way of dry firing, maybe I would emphasize that continuity of grip and vision and just press the trigger one time and then press the dead trigger throughout the rest of the dry fire drill. I will also run iterations of the drill where I will press the trigger, stop, hold the trigger back, work the slide enough that the mechanism's ready to reset, re-grip the gun, and then proceed with the drill for the next trigger press. And even though that causes this huge discontinuity in grip and to a degree vision, it does allow me to re-emphasize the trigger control element itself. Now, I don't know if I'm right. It may be that I'm wasting a lot of time there. That's possible. But I feel like I have felt like that's a pretty big contributor, that specific drill, to my abilities just as a pure pistol shooter, regardless of circumstance.
I think that definitely makes sense. Okay, I reread the question. It kind of makes sense more now. So I throw time at it both ways, and I think you get different benefits from doing it with resetting the trigger and without resetting the trigger. They're both good. So the USA coach is like a 100% accuracy-based coach.
I don't know for sure, but I'm thinking that sounds like a bullseye style deal.
Yeah, exactly. So their trigger pull is so much and has so much effect on the shot, way more than ours does. Like they're shooting at like dime-sized stuff at fucking huge distances, and their trigger pull means so much. That's like a lot of the actual shot. But in our sport, it's not nearly as that much. You can get totally crazy with the trigger, slapping the shit out of it, and still be fine on accuracy.
Well, on close-range targets.
Yeah.
Yes. So, Gabe, what about it? Would you say that this guy doesn't know dick about real-world shooting if he's not emphasizing the trigger reset element? Or the trigger break and all that?
I don't think I would say it in that broad a brush, overly provocative way. I think that's kind of that's not the way. Not the way I would say it.
Why the fuck are you here? Damn it!
To wear fun hats and glasses.
All right, that sounds pretty reasonable.
Dude, what glasses? What glasses?
I know. I wear my contacts.
Some people are going to listen to the audio rip, Gabe, and they're not going to understand your fun glasses. But, but
I guess they better watch it on the podcast, so they better watch the YouTube then.
Yeah. Well, I think, Gabe, I feel like you talk a lot of sense, like you usually do. You're right. For what is dominant USPSA is drawing, reloading, gripping the shit out of the gun. And you're gonna get with a Glock or something. You're gonna get one realistic press, and then the rest of the time you're just kind of working with a dead trigger. And that's not awesome. That's not the ideal scenario, I suppose. But that's more kind of what we value is the target transitions and yes, continuity of grip. I like the way you put that. But it would be nice if there was a way to get your more trigger breaks out of it without having to use a cert pistol that isn't weighted properly or something like that.
Yeah, I agree. That is a real problem. Yeah, definitely. I wonder if I'm also, I may have kind of developed that custom for myself out of participation in GSSF, which is, you're not shooting at small stuff like you are in Bullseye, but that's a pretty much pure shooting competition, and I personally like to shoot near stock Glocks, which is that's not the easiest trigger press around. There's a lot harder ones, but it's far from an easy one. So I really feel like I got to do work, or I'm gonna rust on that trigger press.
If you wanted a nice stock striker fired trigger, you'd be looking at like a SIG 320 or something like that, right?
Yeah, it's funny you bring that one. Yeah.
It's funny I bring that up.
It is, because I felt another one of those Gray Guns 320 triggers this weekend at a match, and that thing is, it just puts my Glock trigger to shame. It's my trigger is way harder than that trigger. That's just like, Just press it back. You know, I mean, why would you even bother with the reset? I could see the point of practicing without worrying about the reset. I mean, why would you even bother? You just, pull your fingers back and that's it. That's all you have to do.
Oh my God.
It would be like if I put like the full, whatever many parts you could put in a Glock, and I had like a 2-pound Glock bowl. It would be like that.
All right, gentlemen. Well, another podcast where I feel strongly that you've hit it out of the park, Gabe. Please tell me that's vodka and not water.
Do you think it is?
I'll say yes.
Okay.
If you want to get Gabe, he's a subject matter expert on Pistol Forum.
No, I am not. I am not an SME.
You are. Shut up.
I'm not.
Hopkins is at hopkinsshooting.com. Tim Myers is at the Pro Shop. And you can find me at bensteger.com. If you have something you'd like us to discuss, kick it over to me. Send me an email, and we'll get right on it for you. Oh, man, look at Gabe. That's so awesome. People watching the YouTube rip when this shit fades out, they're going to be like, that is amazing that he owns something